TandLers, and welcome to TandL Talks, the podcast for, about, and featuring fabulous educators. I'm your host, Nancy. Today we're diving into how teachers are using GLAD strategies in their classrooms. GLAD, or Guided Language Acquisition Design, is all about making content accessible, engaging, and meaningful for all learners. I am joined by a fabulous group of educators representing both primary and intermediate grades who will share the strategies they love most, the ways GLAD connects to our curriculum, and the impact it's having on their students' learning. Let's jump in. Hello and welcome to TandL Talks. I have 5 fabulous educators here today to talk about GLAD. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Michelle Canyon. I'm a 4th grade teacher and I'm at Northwood.
I'm Jillian Risser. I'm a 1st grade teacher at Pope.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferguson and I am a kindergarten teacher at Woodland.
And my name is Sarah Venegas and I'm a kindergarten teacher at Woodland.
My name is Juanita Kerr. I teach 4th grade at Ridgecrest Elementary.
Great. And you have all been through GLAD training and are using GLAD in your classroom. So I love that we've got primary and intermediate represented today too. And I just want to talk about your experiences and how that looks in your classroom. So let's start with, are there specific GLAD strategies that are kind of your go-tos that you use more than others?
One of my favorite strategies to use in kindergarten is the narrative input charts. It really, CKLA really lends itself to being able to quickly adapt into the narrative input chart, the format. And the kids are very engaged with that strategy.
And kind of to bounce off of that, I found like all of the charts, like I'm excited to try like the graphic organizer input chart. That's one that I haven't tried yet, but I think we rely heavily on like the pictorial input chart and, like she said, the narrative. And I think that's probably one of our most favorite strategies. Like those strategies are our favorite to use just because of how, like she said, how well they integrate into the curriculum of CKLA and of like any of our other subjects. So it's really great.
Oh, as a 4th grade teacher, I appreciate using the observation charts a lot to kick off a unit, especially for CKLA and also Twig units. It kind of gives everyone a common ground and kids are able to ask questions, and some kids can shine and help others when it's pictures they notice that others might not know about yet. Gives everyone access.
So you've already commented a little bit on this about how you incorporate GLAD strategies into CKLA. I heard Twig. I think sometimes that's where teachers feel a little stuck because they feel like if they incorporate something like GLAD that it's veering away from the curriculum. And what I'm hearing from you is it becomes part of the curriculum. It's, as one of our CKLA facilitators once said, it's giving it your sparkle. So you're using that. Have you used it with math at all?
No.
Okay.
Not yet. But I know that in some of our trainings, they have emphasized that you can use it for math. I'm still learning GLAD.
Right.
So I would say last year was a good practice run for me. And the more I use it, the more comfortable I'll be to expand it to other subject areas.
I know in kindergarten we've done some picture sorts of like shapes, 3D and 2D, and taking realistic images and allowing the kids to talk about them and where they might see it in their environmental areas, and being able to put them into those attributes and say this is a triangle, this is a rectangle, this is a cylinder. And so having the kids be able to talk about that and see it in a realistic format is extremely beneficial.
And also something that we've been talking about doing is doing like almost like a picture dictionary where we're using vocab that could be like the math vocab. And then, so if they're learning about addition, we're unlocking the word and then we're drawing pictures that they help us make to represent that. And it's just really cool because then we can put that up in the classroom and they can look at the wall and like connect. Oh yeah, I remember when we drew that. So especially in kindergarten, when you kind of have to, like, you know, make it work for them, it's really cool to see that in all areas. And the fact that you can use that, you know, science, maths, like SEL, like it's really cool to see.
And the way you can use it in math is when you're drawing with the students as they learn different strategies and you're adding onto the posters. Like this is using base 10 pieces for multiplication. This is how the ratio table looks, and you just color code it different ways. I mean, to me, that's gladifying it. I just made up that word.
I love it.
You know, that's gladifying it. And, you know, just for kids to have the visual, or when they share their different ideas of how they solve the problem, they're having the discussions, it's almost, you know, they're comparing and contrasting their strategies. So it kind of lends itself well to any of your Bridges sessions, I would say.
I agree.
Something I love about GLAD is that hearing all the strategies from teachers, I'm still in the same boat where I haven't used it in math yet, but I love hearing the ideas of other things teachers have tried. I've started with just doing it in knowledge, which is where I think is really easy for it to fit. And I've tried some really cool things, but you're giving me great ideas.
And one of the things, like with GLAD, especially that I found, that it makes you uncomfortable to do it. It really does. And being able to try something and go, oh, that didn't quite work the way I wanted to, but I'm going to tweak this just a little bit and try that strategy again. And that's the biggest thing, is where it's every time I do it, it becomes a little bit easier and just part of my routine.
And what I'm hearing too is once you've done the GLAD training, you can start with baby steps.
Yeah.
And then it gets,
Yeah.
like you said, more part of your routine. Oh, I can try it here. I love that. I also love, as you're talking about the charts that you're building with kids, we know that the difference between something co-created with kids and just a poster we put on the wall is huge. When kids are part of creating it, they're going to rely on it. They have a different level of comprehension than just a pretty shiny prepackaged poster. They don't always connect with that, right?
Nancy, when you said the comprehension of it, and it's been so cool to see, especially kindergartners use vocabulary, that it blows me away.
Oh my
that
God.
They will pull words out of that we've learned 2 months ago.
Oh, wow.
And to hear them, it's powerful to see that it really works.
Shannon has a really great story about that I think she should share.
Yeah, tell us.
So in kindergarten, we learn about one of our knowledge units is around plants, and the kids learn about evergreen and deciduous trees. And even as grown-ups, a lot of adults, like, you may not know what deciduous means. And I had one of my students, I was in an observation, and one of my students pulled out deciduous while I'm in my observation. And it was just like, I was so taken aback, like, you remembered that word, you knew the context, you knew what the definition was, she knew everything about it. And it showed me truly how powerful these strategies can be.
And this was months later. Like, this wasn't just like a week later. This was like months later, but she remembered what they had built at that time, and she brought it into a different lesson in a completely different unit. And I mean, that just shows the power of something like that. Or like one time I was reviewing a unit with a student, and he was looking at what we had built on the wall and giving me answers, and this is a kindergartner, giving me answers based on like the images that we drew together and the words that he saw. And so, I mean, it's really powerful stuff. Like, this is really something I've never really had, like a practice that I've applied that I'm like, wow, like 100% this works across the board.
Right.
And I think they start to learn to do it on their own. Like like Sarah was saying, that student cited their source without even being prompted to cite their source. So once it's part of your routine, it's the kids' routines too.
And how great is it that kid did that in your observation, right?
I mean, like, hey,
we would take it anytime, but when the
during
principal's
that,
taking notes, sweet.
Yes.
And I think that brings up that I think when About 10 years ago, I was trained with, it was called Project Glad, I think,
Right,
before it was
right.
Be Glad. And so I took all these strategies and I've just kind of used them throughout the years. And then I, joined Tabitha's group last year because now I'm at a school that the MLL population is much higher in my classroom. And so I've just been slowly just adding on to different units. You don't have to do it all of your units all of this year. Just pick a unit to go for, pick one strategy for your units, and it just really helps, not just for just your MLO students, but for all of your students.
Right.
Every student. Your
Right.
non-readers, your kids that they can't come up with the ideas right away. They have the visual to help them. So it's just been really fun to see how it helps everyone.
Now, do you have, especially those of you in intermediate grades, do you have lots of teachers in your building who are GLAD trained? Are we seeing kids coming to 4th and 5th grade with some of these strategies that they're used to, or is it sort of hit and miss?
I know in my school, we have a great staff at my school.
Yeah.
I think some are GLAD trained. I think anchor charts are pretty much used across the board for everyone, maybe not specifically GLAD, but that's the beauty of GLAD too, is you can build it into anything.
Yeah.
And the kids don't know, they don't care. They just have a way to reference what they're learning. And again, what she was saying, they actually see it built in front of them, so they have ownership over it. I think that no matter what grade level they're coming through, I teach 4th grade, but they're used to seeing something to support their learning. So I would say, maybe not specifically GLAD, but my school is definitely enhancing students' learning through strategies related to GLAD.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's fun to walk by and you peek in someone's classroom, you see one of the charts that you recognize and going in, wait, what did you do there? And asking about it and getting ideas as you walk by. It's hit or miss, but a lot of teachers know about it and are using it, so it's really cool.
Well, and I'm hearing too that lots of our teachers have been through GLAD training, and then just through collaboration, even if they haven't been through training, just collaborating with their colleagues, they're like, I'm going to try that.
Yes. I just took the most recent GLAD training, and I think there were four more teachers from my school that took it with me. And before I took the training, I've just recently been moved to kinder, and so I work closely with Shannon, and she would say, hey, try this strategy, this is how it works. And I would try it, and I would feel really uncomfortable, and I could tell something wasn't coming across as naturally as I prefer. So then I would, just like with anything, pull back, reflect, say, okay, what went well, what didn't? I'd connect with Shannon, say, okay, what did I do wrong here? Like, this didn't feel right. She'd clarify, I would try it again, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like all of the pieces just click together, and I'm like, okay, this feels right. Like, I've practiced it now. Like, it was uncomfortable, but I pushed through. And so even without taking the training, I was able to get so many resources when I collaborated with people who have.
Right.
Or Tabitha's come to our school before, and before, I think it was during one of our supplemental days, one of my first years being at Woodland, and she taught us all, I believe it was a comparison. It was
comparative.
a woodland eagle and then a real eagle. And she gave us all that example, and I'm pretty sure there's at least one teacher from each grade level to this day that still does that same lesson at the beginning of the year, teaching them our SOAR expectations. And so, I mean, it just works with everything. Like we
Right.
said, it's just so cool to see. And so, but I wish everybody could experience this training, because it was so wholesome. It was so solid. You know what I mean? Now I really have a good understanding of what I can do from here. I've done the baby steps, and now I'm kind of getting more, I'm digging in deeper now.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think to piggyback off that, the beginning training is so good, but I know when I took it, it was very overwhelming. There's a lot of wonderful strategies and knowing where to start. And I think what really, if you don't have such a wonderful person to collaborate with on your team, I took the second class last year, and we have some amazing GLAD coaches in the district, and being able to partner with Tabitha, and she was able to really help me and do kind of what you were mentioning your coworker did. And so I encourage everyone to do that, because now I feel empowered to really actually make these resources and actually implement them. And I'm really excited to make a lot more resources this year and try more this year.
So if you all were giving advice to teachers who are new to GLAD, if there was like one thing to start with, what might that be?
I would say in primary, I absolutely love the picture dictionary. It's taking one of the easiest ways I think that it can be implemented is most, if not all of our knowledge lessons will have a word work section, a specific vocabulary word that you can go through. Everything is given to you in our CKLA, in our guides, and so being able to just add one extra little step to it. It's just a realistic picture. You go through the word and you put it up, and that's it. And so it's a simple, easy way to put it into your classroom.
Thank you.
I think the CCD charts are really helpful. We are teaching vocabulary all the time in multiple subject areas, and I think that would be a good place to start. I've also really liked the observation charts too. It's a good way to introduce a lesson. What those are is you might take pictures of different, or get pictures, different topics that you're going to be covering in the unit, and you just display them in a kind of a collage and different posters across the room. And students, usually in pairs, will write an observation, ask a question, I forget the other thing,
Make a prediction.
and make a prediction of what they think they're going to be learning about in that unit. And then they'll travel from poster to poster, and you give them a few minutes to kind of discuss and observe and get their mouths moving and their brains thinking about what's ahead.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a fun way and an easier, maybe a way to start.
And a lot of the pictures are already available. People have made them already. So you just have to be able to find the resources. And, I know that some are in Schoology, and I think they're getting moved to the curriculum repository. So there are the pictures already there. And the observation chart you can do with a large class. I mean, in intermediate, the reality is a lot of us have over 30 kids, and it seems like impossible, but I mean, it's going to be loud. Everything we do with 30 kids is a little bit louder, but it gets done. Moving desks to sit on the carpet. I mean, you train them well enough, it's doable.
Right.
I think my advice would be, when I first heard some of these, I'm like, can first graders really do this? Seems tricky. If we're doing observation charts and we're rotating, is there going to be conflicts? Can they actually write on a sticky note? I don't know, you think of all the things, and I think I would encourage people to just try it, because they really can step up to the plate and do it. When we do observation charts, they're so engaged, drawing pictures, writing, in their way of writing, but you can still tell that they're so engaged, and then that helps the rest of the unit.
And they're so excited to talk about it and
Yes.
tell each other about it. And even if they cannot represent their thinking in pictures or words, I guarantee you they can tell you about it.
Right.
So you can understand their thinking. So primary grades definitely can step up and get to that level.
Which also makes me think back to just our summit training the other day, where they talked a lot about oral rehearsal. So even if they're not quite ready to write yet, they can do the oral rehearsal, which is that first step in the writing trajectory.
Yep. Absolutely.
How do you think GLAD strategies help make sure that all kids can access rigorous content? I heard you talk, Michelle, about ML kids at your school. I'm thinking some of you have special ed programs where we've got kids who push in who might have lower language skills. So what are your thoughts on that? How do we help make sure that all kids can access rigorous content?
I think one of my favorite things about GLAD is just the fact that it breaks you away from using like the cutesy cartoony pictures, and like you have to use like real life images on your posters, like when you are showing kids a new concept, because some of these kids, maybe they've never seen a specific flower, or they have no idea what like a map of the world looks like. And so showing them these real life images helps students that maybe don't have that exposure to those things. It's building their background knowledge, it's getting them more familiar with things. And then like MLL students, or students who might not be able to verbalize in the way that they want, like they can use those pictures to support like how they're explaining something to you, you know. So that's something that I've really appreciated about it, and been like, wow, this really does connect to all learners, not just, you know, one specific group in our class. Like it's getting to everybody, and you can see that.
I had a really great experience last year. I did expert groups for the first time with my first graders. And I have a student who has an IEP and who is a struggling reader, and really refused to try. I had trouble getting to do a normal reading worksheet, and we were in the small group doing the expert group, and he did the entire thing. Just totally engaged, was contributing verbally, and was able to, because that strategy is so scaffold for students, even the low readers were able to take notes with us, we're able to highlight together, we're verbally saying, you know, all of the vocabulary in the text that we were getting into about gemstones, and they were so engaged. It was really amazing to see. So I think these strategies are really useful for a variety of readers. My high kids were super engaged too, and my struggling readers, and it was really cool. And you could see the confidence in their faces, where they're not always, some of those kids are not used to feeling successful, and you could tell they felt really successful in what they had done and made, and so it's really, really cool.
It's like a natural differentiation.
I think
like you don't
that's
even,
what
exactly.
I was
you
going
really
to
don't
say
even
too.
mean to be doing it, but it's supporting everybody at the same time. Like that's just so cool. Like that's awesome that you did that. I want to try expert groups this year.
Yeah, that was one of the things. I did try expert groups, and especially with kindergarten, and that took me out of my comfort zone, because it's intimidating, and it's, you know, where I was uncomfortable, but now I'm like, I can try it again, and you know, make the little changes that I need to, but like everything is so naturally easy to differentiate and scaffold, and you can change the way you're presenting something to meet every learner's needs.
Yeah, and we talked at the Learning Summit, you know, about the writing and how, like in intermediate, or the expectations for SBA are writing multiple paragraphs, but there's not a lot of that opportunity in our curriculum. Well, with expert groups, adding on to expert groups, you can add on cooperative paragraphs and then build your essay with your students. That was really fun to do with our Time Travelers unit, Twig unit last year. So you just kind of have to look at the resources you have and what works best to help you get those writers writing.
Yeah.
I think it also gives the kids an opportunity to talk about what they're learning. And when you use the different charts, comparative charts, input charts, narrative charts, they have a frame of reference. They have evidence of what they're learning, and that they can speak confidently because they can see what they helped build and what they saw built. And I think it also reinforces other parts of the curriculum, such as the things they've read about in the readers, intermediate, or things in their practice books. Like, oh, there it is again. Oh, there it is again. Oh, there it is again. And, oh, I can actually write an informative essay on this because I have all of these frames of reference or pieces of evidence that support my opinion or my build on my information. So it's empowering.
That's so exciting. How do you and your grade level teams incorporate GLAD strategies into your planning?
I know when we're sitting down for kindergarten especially, it's, you know, we talk a lot about too, like the expectations of, you know, the intermediate grades versus primary grades. They're getting ready for SBA. We're, you know, and so we're building those foundational skills in the lower grades. And Sarah and I have gotten to the point where we sit down and take a look at our, you know, our as we're going through our pacing guide and our, the teacher's manuals, and taking a look at the lessons and going, okay, I can take this strategy and maybe change this a little bit, and I'm still using the curriculum that is given to me. And that's, you know, like you said, using the resources that we have. It's all there. We don't have to create new and interesting topics. Everything we have is provided if you just tweak it just a little bit. And it's really cool to see, even for us, when we're going through the manual, like you said, oh, there's that GLAD strategy. There's that GLAD strategy. Yeah. You don't even realize that. I think some teachers might not even realize that they're doing it. And they are.
Right.
And so we just try to take, as we're planning, you know, how can we take a strategy that we've been using and just keep putting it into our lessons and building on what we've been working on.
Yeah, and like we can look at a unit and be like, oh, let's do a graphic organizer input chart or a GOIC. Like, let's do that for the whole unit. And then we can, like, later, oh, we're doing the senses. Let's do, like, some
narrative
like
chart.
A narrative chart for knowledge, you know, like, build that. And then we're like, oh, let's do a pictorial input chart for this specific thing that we really want them to get. So you can literally, like, plan out a whole unit, and almost like once you get the hang of it, you can start spotting like, oh, that would be a good strategy to use for this, or like, oh, we could do this to kind of help those kids get
or
that
the kids
understanding.
struggle with this concept, so let's tie this into this strategy into this concept to you know, solidify their learning just a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with planning,
It naturally lends itself,
Yeah,
almost, I think.
yeah, and it is fun to sometimes get in that CKLA teacher book and be like, oh, that is a GLAD strategy. Like, they just call it something a little different, you know? So.
What I'm hearing from you and what I hear from teachers all the time just is how easy it is to include GLAD strategies into your curriculum. And just, I love it when you go to any training and you can immediately envision, how is this going to look in my classroom? How can I use this with kids? And then when you use it with kids and it's value added, that whole cycle is really exciting, right? All right. Anything else that you'd like to share about GLAD, your experiences, your kids' experiences? Anything you think our teachers should know?
I would just like urge anybody, if you can, to take the training. It's a long one, but it's so worth it, you know, and to lean on those teachers at your school who do have experience with it, and don't be afraid to try to connect with Tabitha, you know, because she is a wealth of knowledge.
She really is.
Yeah,
Yes, she
so,
is.
you know, and something I didn't really know, that, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's like a GLAD lab, like once a month day, where you can go and like build materials
Yes.
for your classroom. And I didn't really realize that. And so that I just learned that over the summer. And I was like, oh, that's going to be something I'm keeping my eye out for.
Yes. Have any of you ever been to the GLAD lab?
Not yet. It's my goal
Not yet.
this year.
That's my
to-
goal. That's my goal this year.
Yeah. One hard thing about GLAD is you have to plan so far in advance.
Right.
So I'm working on planning farther this year.
Right?
Well, and the first thing I do if it's a unit that I haven't created yet is I go and look, or I'll even just email Tabitha and say, hey, do you have any resources yet or pictures for this particular unit? because I know lots of teachers are making things, trying to accumulate them in a spot so that we're not all doing the work ourselves.
Yes.
You know, we want to work as a team in this district because we're wealth of knowledge, and let's face it, it is time consuming to get it started, but once you have those materials, you've got them. So
Right. I'll say that's been it does take the time to prep and plan, but being able to the next year you just automatically pull out, and so it's already prepped. So I'm like, okay, I prepped it once, and now I can do it year after year, and that's the benefit of it. It does take at first prepping it, getting it ready, but then you have it going forward. So.
Yeah, and then you can focus on a new unit.
A new unit or a new strategy, or so building your, your kind of your portfolio, I guess you could say.
Right. Well, thank you all for your time today. Thank you for sharing your expertise and your practice with us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Thank you for listening to today's conversation on TandL Talks. I loved hearing how these educators are bringing GLAD strategies into CKLA, Twig, Bridges, and beyond, always with a focus on student voice, intellectual engagement, and comprehension. What stood out to me is how flexible GLAD really is. You can start small with one strategy, and over time it just becomes a natural part of your professional practice. If you haven't yet had the chance to participate in GLAD training, I encourage you to consider it. It's powerful professional learning that benefits all students. Thanks again to our teacher panel for sharing their insights and experiences, and thank you for joining us. Be sure to follow TandL Talks on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, give us 5 stars and share it with a colleague who could use a little inspiration. Until next time, keep teaching, keep learning, and keep sparking engagement in your classrooms.